When the first American P-51 Mustangs appeared over Europe, German pilots barely paid attention. They called it unremarkable, a light fighter with no range and no chance against the Luftwaffe's veterans. But within months, those same pilots were staring at formations of bombers protected by Mustangs that never seemed to run out of fuel, chasing them even over Berlin itself. Stay until the end to find out how the P-51 went from an afterthought to the most feared fighter of the war, and how it gave the Allies the skies they needed to win. The war over Europe. By 1943, the air war over Europe had become a deadly routine. American bombers flew deep into Germany in daylight raids, while the Germans waited for them with hundreds of interceptors. The losses were devastating. Entire bomber groups vanished before reaching their targets. The US Air Force had fighters, the P-47 Thunderbolt and the P-38 Lightning, but neither could fly far enough to protect the bombers all the way to Berlin. Once the escorts turned back, the German fighters struck like wolves. The Allies needed a miracle, a fighter with the range of a bomber and the speed of a hunter. That miracle was about to arrive. The arrival of the Mustang. The beginnings of the P-51 Mustang were humble. Designed in record time by North American Aviation for the British, it was meant to be a low-altitude fighter with average range. It was fast, but not exceptional. Even the US Army didn't seem interested or convinced at first. But in late 1942, a British engineer had an idea: replace its original engine with the Rolls-Royce Merlin, the same power plant used in the Spitfire. This changed everything, and the result was astonishing. The P-51 Mustang suddenly climbed faster, flew higher, and stretched its range far beyond anything else in the sky. It could finally escort the bombers where no Allied fighter had ever reached before. The laughing stops. When the first Mustangs joined American bomber formations in late 1943, German pilots laughed. They thought it was just another short-range escort that would turn back at the border. Then they watched it keep going and going and going. For the first time, the German safe zones, their airfields, fuel depots and cities deep inside Germany were no longer safe. The P-51s could dogfight over Bremen, over Hamburg, even over Berlin itself. Their 50 caliber guns tore through interceptors before the bombers even reached the target. What followed after was a painful realization, and the laughter stopped. Little friends. Bomber crews called them their little friends. Every time they saw the sleek, long-nosed P-51s forming up alongside their flying fortresses, morale soared amongst bomber pilots. They knew those planes meant a fighting chance to get home. Mustang pilots often flew 7- or 8-hour missions, crossing the English Channel, escorting bombers to Germany, then staying behind to hunt returning German fighters. Their fuel tanks were enormous, their engines reliable, and their pilots determined. The Germans soon realized they could no longer control the skies, and airspace dominance started to shift in favor of the Allied forces. Turning the tide. By early 1944, The Mustang was leading the way for every major bombing raid. When the Allies targeted German aircraft factories, fuel plants and railways, the P-51s made sure the bombers got there safely and got back safely. For the first time, the Germans were forced to fight over their own territory, losing pilots and planes faster than they could replace them. Entire fighter wings were wiped out in a matter of weeks. This was a heavy blow for German morale. American ace Bud Anderson said, "We didn't just fight them in the air, we chased them home." German reactions. Captured German pilots often spoke about the P-51 Mustang with disbelief. They had never seen a plane that could fly 1,500 miles, fight at 30,000 feet, and still maneuver like a Spitfire. One German officer reportedly told his interrogators, "When we saw the Mustangs over Berlin, we knew the war was lost." The combination of power, speed, and range turned the P-51 into more than a fighter. It was a symbol of inevitability. The Allies could strike anywhere, anytime. The Mustang legacy. By the time the war ended, the P-51 had destroyed nearly 5,000 enemy aircraft in Europe alone. It was the first fighter to escort bombers from England to Berlin and back again. It cleared the skies for the D-Day invasion and dominated the air until the very end of the war. Pilots loved it for its balance and grace. Bomber crews loved it for saving their lives. And even German aces and veterans respected it as a masterpiece of engineering and endurance. The P-51 wasn't just a plane. It was the embodiment of what the Allies stood for: innovation, persistence, and overwhelming coordination. The Germans once laughed at the Mustang, calling it too light and too late. But it became the weapon that broke their control of the skies and changed the war forever. This is a true World War II story, because sometimes courage and creativity can turn doubt into dominance on the battlefield. Do you agree? Let us know in the comments and subscribe for more true World War II stories.